Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third ever episode of the Monday Money Podcast. I'm your host, Harm, here with my co host, Aaron. Today, we're going to teach you about an interesting topic. But before we get into it, let me throw out a quick disclaimer here. First, I want to say that none of the things we say or talk about in this episode should be or can be taken as any form of financial advice. Before you step into a market, make sure to always do your own due diligence. Now, with that out of the way, Aaron, please get us onto the topic.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. So, today's topic that we're going to talk about dropshipping. We've had it in our last episode for a little while. Well, we talked about it as like an example, and today we're going. Today we're going to talk about it. Let me just. Yeah, there we have it. All right. So, first of all, as always, we're going to start with the definition of it. Dropshipping. An order fulfillment option that allows e-commerce businesses to outsource procuring, storing, and shipping products to a third party, typically a supplier. So, what does that mean? Basically, in rookie terms again, it means that you have a thing and you can sell it online, and all the shipping, the selling, no, the shipping, the storing, and the buying of these products is done by a third party, by a supplier typically. And this can happen in many forms. The most typical form that is used is the website Shopify, for example, where you can just build your own drop shipping website, and on there you can sell your products. And the fun thing about this is now that you don't have to, since you don't have to do any of the selling, since you don't have to do any of the actual ordering, this is all almost automated. The only thing you really have to take care of is the customer service. And if somebody sells, if somebody tries to retour their order, that is something you will have to take care about as well. But first of all, Harm, what do you think about this? Do you think it is really worth it in 2022? Since I've seen that it's been like a trend earlier in this decade.
Hmm. Well, to be very honest, I do still think that dropshipping has its place in the current market state. But one of the things you have to keep an eye on is that the customers are getting a lot more onto the schemes that were used for Shopify stores in the past. So nowadays, you can really just look at a website and instantly tell, is this a Shopify store? Is this a dropshipping store? What am I getting for the product that I pay for? So one of the problems that a lot of Shopify stores are running into these days is the long shipping times. Mostly this comes down to, ordering from places like AliExpress. And, places like AliExpress are great in the form that they allow you for a way greater markup on price. The bad thing is obviously that the customers are kind of taking a hit for it in a way that their costs are still are still kind of the same, even though they do have these prolonged shipping times. Don't get me wrong, there aren't always supplier errors, but the products you're getting from places like AliExpress do appear to simply be, a lot lower in quality. Well, what I have dabbled into a little bit is using dropshipping in a different type of way. So let's say hypothetically I'm on this website, right, where you can just buy general products. Think of any tech store, think of any bigger one.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you're able to sign up to these kinds of stores to sell your products. The only thing you'll be paying them for is holding your product until it gets sent out. So with that part of interest, let's think about it. Let's say there's a company, right, which I can place my products on their pages. What I could in essence do is look up products on their store, which are already selling very well, and then try to look for a cheaper alternative on a different form of website. See, the shipping times don't really apply here. So I could send, in theory, something over from AliExpress to that actual store's hub so they can place it there in storage and sell it whenever necessary. The good part about this is that there's really no customer downside. Plus, by lowering the margin on the product that's also being sold on the page, I'm very likely to make more sales, purely off of the fact that mine is, cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I think is one of the more powerful aspects of dropshipping and the new ways we have to look at it, especially now that customers are getting more aware and smarter about purchasing products online.
Mm-hmm.
But, with that out of the way, what do you like about dropshipping? Or do you think it's kind of overrated at the moment?
I don't necessarily think it is overrated. I think it definitely has its place in the market, as you said, but I think it even has this like stigma to it that it is a scam. That's something I don't like because it is still a legitimate way to make money, and I think people should still use it. Even though I mean it would be good if people would use it less, so we could have more. But that is a whole other topic. But one thing I definitely do like
Hmm.
about it up until now is just the fact that it is very very much automated. Since like when you're done with setting up everything, which is well can take quite a while. I've seen that it can take up to a couple of days just setting everything up, getting everything cleared. Um, which we can dive into a bit later as well,
Yeah.
especially about the costs. But I think after you set up everything, just the fact that everything is very very automated is just very attractive to me because it is well as it gets advertised a lot on platforms like YouTube or well anywhere you can find information about finances and people trying to like sell you this kind of stuff. Um, you will it like it just fulfills this thing of it can be passive money basically.
Yes, and that's, in my opinion, at least, exactly the interesting part about it. So let's say I would want to start a store. Let's say a Shopify store or any other form of online web shop where I use drop shipping as a good way of earning the money. Do you know how you would set it up, or do you have any idea how you would get it started?
Yes, you can actually just go onto Shopify, and it is very clear. It is very 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 structured in a way. And on this website, you can basically set up your own website for a dropshipping company, or not company, for a dropshipping website. And from there on, everything is kind of automated. You just have to search for products, and that is one of the bigger challenges from this because you have to obviously get good products. You need to know whether they solve a problem or whether they are actually helpful to people, so you can make sure it sells actually very well, because the last thing you would want to do is just people not buying, and that just loses your money in the end because you lose money through advertisement a lot. Or
Hmm.
you could lose money through advertisement that you're doing that is just not bringing in anything back. um but yeah, from there on, you're good to go. It's practically sets up itself. You just have to find out the products, as I said, sign them in, wait for clearance, and then you're good to go. Well, okay, that is one part. The next part would be that actually have to build the website. You have to get a logo. You have to set up your whole brand, basically. But from there on, you're pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I do understand what you're saying, but it mostly comes down to the general parts of the drop shipping. So if there's anything that I may add to it or would add, is that before you start drop shipping at any moment, the first thing I would probably do is look at my local laws and how they either favor me or are not in my favor.
Hmm.
So, for example, in the Netherlands, you always need to set up a company first. So that means going to the necessary directors and making sure that you actually get a company onto your name. Whatever kind of company, you have to request it there at that moment. So even for something like an e-commerce business, you'd probably need that. So afterwards, of course, we can get more into what you mean by setting up your Shopify store, putting in the email addresses, making the
Hmm.
store, getting the logos, and kind of getting it started in that way. So besides, let's say we get the store, we have the store now, we have an interesting product selection. Um, why don't you throw out a hypothetical for, let's say, a type of product that you're selling and where or why you would advertise it in a way?
Okay. Let me think of a hypothetical real quick. One thing that I've seen would be, I don't know if you know them, these neck massagers, these neck massager guns. You know them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, these ones. Well, you could sell those. You can get them. Well, you can find them on websites like what AliExpress,
Alibaba
Amazon.
probably.
Yeah, Alibaba. Yeah. You could find them. You could find them on these websites pretty easily. Then you just link them up into your store. You bring them basically into your assortment, and from there on, from there on, you start an advertisement as well. and you're good to go from there, and it just goes itself. Well, obviously you do have to set up ads as well,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
when you have the ads, it does itself. Well, you can't really influence anything, so you have
So
to wait for customers to latch onto it.
where would you personally advertise something like a neck massager then?
Well, this would basically come down to our last episode where we talked about social media marketing, and here you could use social media marketing very well. That would be a good tool. For example, neck massages would fit into a category of 20. I would just from the top of my head, I would say something like 20 to 50 year olds. Then you would just set up a, what is it called, a TikTok ad, for example. Yeah, well, I mean, 20 to 50 year olds in TikTok, it doesn't really match, but still, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the social media platforms you would use, and you set up an ad. Then you advertise it with for these kind of people, and from there on you're good to go. It's just advertises itself. People see it, people will buy it, and hopefully, yes, keep it.
Well, yeah, I do understand what you mean. So I think neck massagers, personally, on a certain level,
Yeah.
is something that I would personally not really try to sell, just because I am someone who's not too big of a fan of selling cheap form of tech products.
Mhm.
Just because I can't be fully sure about the quality of the product that I'm getting someone. So let's say something with a neck massager, right? Obviously, this thing has like a few standard components in it. Probably has batteries, probably has some form of control mechanism, putting in the like wheels, etc.,
Yeah,
making it spin, making it actually
a little
massage your
motor.
neck. So those would usually be the things that I'd be kind of cautious about. So recently on TikTok, there was actually a big blow up of a certain type of keychain, I believe,
Yeah.
which was basically a keychain with a cord on it, which you could spin around in your finger.
Mhm.
And very ironically enough, um, this little fidget toy came out to be earning up to, I believe the amount was somewhere in the 200,000s a month.
Mhm.
So that seems to me like it's a good way that they use the social media marketing advertisements,
Yeah.
because they actually got it into the hands of the right demographic. As you know now, there's a little bit of speculation in play as well, but generally we can say a lot of the younger people these days are getting a little more, fidgety, a little more itchy. They're a little, faster moving, so
Yeah.
to say. So this kind of opens up a good market for us because we already have perspective on what the average person would be like. So if everybody was always calm and they wouldn't fidget and they would have no interest in something like that, why would we ever try to sell something like that? We simply wouldn't, because there would really not be a point to it at all. But now, exactly now that the markets are shifting a little bit, we get to throw out some wilder products every now and then. Just always be careful, of course, that when you're drop shipping a product like this, um, well, if you're drop shipping something like this, you have to know that the product you're selling
Yeah.
can be used by everybody, which makes it a very competitive market, which
Yeah.
is very hard to survive in a way. But if you make it and you do the right moves, you get it on the right advertisement spaces, uh, you would be able to get some pretty big profits from it.
Yes, and this is exactly what I like about it. Oh well, yeah, that's exactly what I like about it. It's a simple way. It's kind of a simple way if you think about it. To make money. Like I said, the passive. What I'm a really great fan of is just this passive fact of it, that it has this passive aspect to it. Because once you set up everything, you basically just hope for sales, and the only thing you can really actively do is just compare your products that you have in stock. Well, not in stock on your website. Um, try to just compare the products to other products and see and see what the other competitors are doing, or well, just scout the market a bit for like new things, or well, new trends that you can hop onto as well.
Well, what I kind of have to disagree with there is the part where you say that you have to hope for sales, because in an ideal world, of course, it is like a market where you have a lot of influence in your products.
Hmm.
So what that really means is, like when you talk about the neck massager, I don't see a world where we would advertise something like that very openly on TikTok as much as any other platform,
Mm.
because it's really like setting those parameters regarding your actual advertisements that put you in the money in this sense. So if I'm going to open up a Spotify or a Shopify store, I'm sorry, which sells these, neck massagers, first thing I would probably get into right away is Google AdSense. I need a good form of Google AdSense to always get my website on the top of the page, if not second to best. Then the other costs that I would look into would actually be the advertisement costs, but I would split it up once again. So I would probably put for neck massagers a demographic of about, let's say, 35 to 55 in something like a Facebook platform,
Hmm.
since it's simply used more by older gentlemen or older women. And then for the little bit younger demographic, I would probably select something as a sporty individual who does do a lot of exercise and therefore would also have the necessary muscle strain to warrant having something like this, like a massager tool.
Mm.
So with those parameters set, I do think it's mostly a thing where if you're really good at it yourself personally, you can get very far in it. But if you're sitting there hoping for sales after you put online your Shopify store, I think it's something that's simply doomed to fail, if I'm to be honest.
Oh well, no, no, that was yeah. I may have expressed myself there a bit false, but that was not what I meant. What I meant is that once you start, as you just explained, once you start a good advertisement campaign, basically, and you have it running, you don't have much else to do except for just sitting there and hoping. It was that way, but I expressed it in a bad way. Mm, but that still leaves me with one question: What exactly? What is what? Well, hypothetically, you have the idea to start a dropshipping company, and you're thinking about it really hard, and then you finally find motivation to do it. So you sit there at your computer or laptop or whatever, and you're starting up this company. But you notice one thing: there's probably upfront costs. How do you? How would you say how high are these upfront costs?
Well, to be fair, it's relatively hard to put on an average for something like this.
Oh
It
yeah, of
very
course.
much depends on all the different type of factors you're putting in here.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who has a lot of upfront capital will probably do or be able to do better in a dropshipping environment, simply because they get to invest more in certain resources that they need for it. Let's say I'm freehanding a website while somebody's hiring someone to make a website. That's already a very big leap, right, in quality.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, things like advertising are also very much based on how much you put in it. Simply put, if I put €5 in a Facebook ad, my ad will only reach a certain amount of people, just flat. But if I have more, so let's say I put $100 in instead, and
Yes.
I run the same advertisements, they're gonna reach a lot more people. Just because Facebook is a platform, and the more you pay them to run your ads, the more people will see them. It's simple. It's just that simple, really.
Mm-hmm.
So with these kind of things out of the way, there's a few things we can look out for. So when I'm starting up a Shopify store, this part is mostly about being smart about it instead of trying to just do it an hour a day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the store websites like Shopify, they offer a 14-day trial. And in my opinion, this 14-day trial is actually the best moment to get into it. So once you're completely ready to make the store, instantly hop on that. This already reduces your costs by a lot and at least lets you hit the ground, running and actually
Mm-hmm.
get there. So besides that, we're looking at mostly advertising fees. So advertising fees really also depend on the product. So let's like this say I'm selling hmm, I'm selling cricket bats, right? Cricket bats.
Yes. Yes.
A very niche product. Not a lot of people enjoy it, but let's look at the customer base for crickets. Well, generally speaking, I haven't heard a lot of people that are selling or that are buying crickets, and maybe cricket bats are already way too niche to sell. These are also things we have to look into because if we're not looking at that, we're probably going to be making a loss, right? Because nobody wants to buy it, we're not going to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we would probably do for this is go to a certain supplier website, take a look at that, and add the products to the page. But now we're going into advertising fees. So I think a good starting position for advertising fees, they can be really whatever you want. when you run ads on, let's say, Facebook, for example, they do have a average turnover, or well, not on how much you will earn from it, but on the amount of clicks you will probably get on your website. They give you a rough estimate, so to say.
Mhm.
So if we can get these converted, we're obviously making money. And if you're making money, I personally think that 2.5 times your buying cost is good enough to sell the product,
Yes.
because then you're selling it, so your product, plus the shipping cost, and still managing to make a good profit of it. So when you have this, let's say 100% profit, because 50% of that profit would go to shipping costs or some other costs, um, you've essentially made the product twice. So if we sell it for $20, we now have $40 minus the 20 we spend on it, uh, and the other 50%, so the other €10 that went to shipping costs, etc. Well,
Hmm.
nice. We just earned $10, which is very good. But one sale is obviously not going to make us very rich or get us very far at all.
Yeah.
So the next thing we have to look for is investing this very smartly. So even if we get a small amount of sales, we're going to want to look at the analytics of it. Where did we sell to? Who did we sell to? In what groups do they belong? Right?
Yes. Yes.
Not to marginalize people by any means, but certain demographics simply have more interest in certain products.
Yes. That's. I
So
mean, that's just how the market works.
after analyzing this for, let's say, we did a month of research like this, we can already come to the conclusion that this product is either not going to sell in the future, may sell in the future, but isn't really now, or this product is actually doing us a favor. Well, if it's option A or B, we should probably relinquish the product for just a little bit.
Hmm.
Or if it really doesn't sell, just throw out the concept outright, because it's clearly not doing us any favors. So essentially what you want to look for a lot is suppliers, of course, don't only sell one product most of the time. But suppliers are mostly very generic in what they sell. See, for example, a supplier selling handbags is very unlikely to also be selling skateboards in a way, unless they're like a wholesale seller.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I have to already make a decision about what I'm going to sell. If I want to sell handbags, right, you should probably get a handbag that, or a supplier that sells a lot of types of handbags. Because what you want to avoid as well is that somebody gets on your Shopify page or your website,
Hmm.
they look at the product list and they see a single product. See, I don't know how you think about that, but if I
Yeah.
see
That would
a
be.
web page with a single product on it, I am very likely to think that it may be a scam.
Definitely.
And besides that, a lot of the suppliers, they use very different types of product descriptions than we would usually use for buying or selling a product. So there is a lot of labor there, but it's not something that, in my opinion, you can't do in 2 days of hard work.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what my suggestion would be is, before you even start the Shopify store, basically, look at products which you want to sell, look at the competitors, and then start the Shopify store and hit it running, and just get everything done as fast as possible. Really try to maximize the, let's say, 14-day trial or the 30-day trial you're getting out of that,
Hmm.
because that's the time where you can do it without any fees. I'm not sure about all the fees that all these different websites use, but I believe them to be around $30 a month, give or take.
So, in essence, you're saying before you actually start and launch the website itself, you definitely need to get yourself a list of products, or well, research at least together a list of products that is that you are going to display on your website.
Yeah, definitely. So I would actually suggest picking out a single supplier, then looking at competitors.
Hmm.
There are certain inspect tools, which I will not talk too much about here on this podcast, but you can use them on your competitors' websites to
Hmm.
show you things like how many people are visiting this page,
Hmm.
what regions are these people from, and what ages are these people.
So basically, the demographics of it.
Yeah, you can already see the demographics before you're even getting into it yourself, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Then, besides that, you can also see things like what the store is running on, what kind of software, etc. So those things kind of do even out the playing field, and they may allow you to get into something at just the right time, really. Because remember, when we're dropshipping, it's not so much about finding the next good product as much as it is copying something that works and maybe adding something on top of that. That's all I would really try to do for dropshipping, at least.
That is a great that's actually a great thing. Harm, we should really get into it. If we
well,
think
I,
about it.
Well, I do think it is an interesting perspective to look at it in that way. Dropshipping is one of these things that I would usually see people do on their own, just basically because of company restrictions. Let's say we were
Mhm.
about to start a dropshipping company together. It may be very hard for us to do so, in like a sense where one person would be the company owner and the other person would then in generally be like an employee or a co-owner to it. I don't know. It seems like a lot more work than starting it
Oh
on
yeah.
your own, where a government would be much more likely to give out something like that for you. But besides that, of course, if you want to do it with a buddy, you can talk it over, think about it, and then possibly get into it. But I suggest doing that in a form of give each other information and help each other out way instead of let's do this together and see how far we get way. So yeah, really with that being said, really, um, yeah. Do you know any other examples for like Shopify stores? Have you ever bought anything off a Shopify store? Really?
No, I haven't. But that is probably just due to the fact that I don't really online shop a lot.
No,
But I
exactly.
but I but I but I have heard well, and I do see it with friends and family sometimes that they just buy these cheap products, especially because a lot of people. I mean, that is the fun part about selling, especially these cheaper products from these cheaper suppliers, for example, like Alibaba. That a lot of people just I see it a lot that a lot of people just buy these things out of fun because they think all right, it's cheap and
Yeah.
I might as well just get it. A lot of people also get cheaper things or things that they don't really need in a good quality that they just need. For example, a lot of things that I've seen it like that are these extended power outlets plugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
What are
think I
they?
know
What are they
what you mean.
called? Yeah. For example, a lot of people I see that they buy them that they buy these kind of things that you don't really need in a good quality, but you need in a quality that is at least viable, that at least works. Mm, and that's and speaking of that, that would be more so a cheaper alternative when you don't have really when you really don't have like a lot of upfront capital. For example, when you try to add these things on your list, or on your, let's say, main list of the products that you're trying to sell.
Well, in theory, that wouldn't really matter as much, right? For all I would say, like I could be selling cars in a dropshipping fashion, and it could still
Uh-huh.
possibly be viable.
That is actually true, but isn't it? Doesn't it come down to how much you sell those?
Well,
Really?
yeah, of course, transportation costs, etc., are one of the things that you have to calculate in. But for like, let's say, viable products that aren't like, I don't know, the size of like, well, a car or a boat,
Hmm.
I think it's not something that you don't have to worry about as much. Just make sure you put the right markup on your product and know your margins. Because if I'm selling a product which is worth, or which I sell for 30 euros, and after everything, I take home 2 euros, that's probably not a viable idea, right?
Hmm.
Because you could say, well, I earned 2 euros or $2, but it's not a margin we're looking for, right? It's just not going to be, it's not sustainable in any way.
Hmm. Speaking of sustainable, I have a question for you. How do you think? How do you think this whole dropshipping thing is gonna play a role in the future, or at least going to develop in the future?
Well, one of the funny things that you already brought up is that when I asked you if you've ever shopped on a Shopify store, you
Yes.
instantly said no, right? It's like instinctive.
Hmm.
And the thing that's funny to that, for me, is at least, there's not really a lot of things that you can take away from the store that will make sure that you know it's a Shopify store. You
Hmm.
can edit a lot of the page, and really you have to look at the type of website that it is to know that it's a Shopify store.
Oh
So
yeah, I've seen as well, like a little tool, like a Chrome extension thing.
yeah, there are
Yeah,
Chrome extensions for it,
that
exactly.
like can detect Shopify websites.
Yeah, so even if people are getting more cautious about it, people will always be looking for certain cheaper alternatives to, clothes.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you have to, fake or sell fake clothing to be successful. There's
Hmm.
always going to be interesting knickknacks, and there's also going to be impulse buyers.
Mhm.
And impulse buyers may be one of the greatest types of people to sell to for a dropshipper.
Thank you to
Simply
everybody that is an impulse buyer out there.
Yeah, simply because they see it, they want it, they buy it, and
Yes.
just like that, they you have a sale, and it's made. So one of the big things that you have to learn about dropshipping, in my opinion, is just making sure that guest satisfaction is present in a way where they do not suspect that something is wrong.
Hmm.
Because as soon as somebody is on a website that they've never heard of, and something seems sketchy, that's
Oh yeah, yeah.
automatically amplified by like 10 times at least. Like even if you see like something small which is odd, or a single piece of the website doesn't look right,
Yes, 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 yes,
it's
yes.
already very easy to think like, this isn't quite it. I think this
Yeah,
something's
yeah.
off.
Or what people also like um what like scares a lot of people off as well when they see, or well when they detect any kind of even attempt to scam you. And one of the bigger things of that would be when you see a price tag and you have like a 50% or 70, 80% off with like a lot of red exclamation marks only today and this and that. Like that also scares a lot of
Yeah,
people
I
off
always
when they
think
see.
that's one of the most awful ways, but
Yeah, it is
there are
definitely.
certain types of people who are so used to seeing those kind of things that they may actually believe it. Like that's
Oh
one of
yeah,
the
that's.
parts which I'm not too big of a fan of. I won't go in on my opinion too much on that, but so one of the things that always sets me off when I look at a web page and I'm on to buy something is the actual sales page.
Uh-huh.
So after you go into the cart, right, your shopping
Yes.
cart, you'll always be sent to a page where you're actually like filling out details, etc.
Yes.
And I've encountered these websites which are 100% legitimate, but this simple putting in process looks so weird or so odd compared to the website itself
Uh-huh.
that it just puts me off from buying something outright, because it feels like there's a certain disconnect. It feels like I'm on a completely different website, so to say.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes.
Like the colors will be off, the anything really you can look at. It's like, this the font is weird.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so those are the kinds of things that you do have to look out for. Customer experience is really key. You need to make the customer experience easy, fast, and fluent.
Yes, yes, definitely.
So just make sure that you can get the product ordered as fast as possible, so that once they've made the sale, it pulls through, you get your money, supplier gets their cut, it's sent out. It can be just as easy as that. So refund policies would also be a good thing to implement because they give a form of safety to the customer.
Yeah.
So besides that, really, automation is like one of the big keys of this, right? But automation isn't actually something that's instantaneously achieved. So we're lucky to be in an age where websites like Spotify or these creator platforms for it,
Hmm.
they have these add-ons to your webpage.
Yes.
Where if you install these add-ons, that's actually the moment where your buys and sales will be automated. And I think it's a great thing to have nowadays. But when people say, and it's one of the most popular things to say is, passive income, passive income, passive income.
Yes, yes, yeah, that's.
It's one of these things that I can't wholeheartedly believe, because while it's not a full-time job and you're not going to be on it all of the time, there are still certain amounts of analytical thinking that you have to go through
Yeah, as I mentioned.
to
Yes.
actually make sure that it pulls through in the end. Like if you want to get successful at it, there's certain things you simply have to train, have to get better at, and that doesn't mean that it warrants buying like extreme amounts of courses, but always just make sure you look into the right stuff, think ahead of time, and go through your own process. There is so many people on dropshipping sites or any form of website who have clearly never tried ordering a product of their own website. Well, it's
Oh,
probably one of the most crucial things you can ever do, because getting to feel what your customers are going to feel when they get onto your webpage and try to buy something may be one of the
yeah.
most crucial parts in the actual sales process.
Wow. Yeah, that is very powerful. That's
Yeah,
that's very good advice.
in essence, that also comes down to certain sales things. If you want to sell someone something, how about you try and record yourself once? Just have a conversation with somebody who doesn't exist,
Hmm.
record it, and then play it back for yourself. See how you like it when someone talks in a certain way to you.
Yes.
So, yeah, to apply that, we can say write a product description and then have one of your buddies read it. It's
Hmm.
just that simple.
Speaking of product descriptions, there's also a lot of things And that's also a big thing when that you see in dropshipping. That you see in like dropshipping websites, or when somebody tries to like dropship on Amazon. I think that is possible, right?
I mean, to a degree, probably, yeah.
Yeah, to a degree. Mm, especially when you sell a bit cheaper products in the 10 to 15 to 20
Well,
euro range. You
Amazon is
see,
actually one of these funny drop shipping ones, where in essence, it's one of the like earlier concepts that I said. Like you buy it in bulk, or you
hmm
buy like a lot of product, and
hmm
you can send it to the Amazon warehouse, and they will simply keep it for storage. But you'll be paying a fee, like a storage fee there.
hmm
That's the only difference there. So it doesn't become dropshipping as much anymore, but it's still there in a functional way of you're not keeping storage while you did already buy bulk. So that way of selling, it's good in a way that you can also advertise on the platform
hmm
that's going to be sending out the products, and you know it's going to be done fast. So that's the positive aspect of selling it on Amazon, but there's going to be an upfront cost to it.
yes, but back to the description thing as well. What you also see a lot of times, and this is probably a bigger mistake in terms of like the quality of your page, is that a lot of people use these pre pre-translated um, pre-translated descriptions for their products. Have you ever seen that? It's
Oh
like
yeah.
they almost like use like the suppliers what is it called, the suppliers description, and just put it in Google Translate, and you see that it's very like badly translated. You can barely like you just see that it is cheap. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but that's what I think is one of the fun parts about dropshipping in particular is that,
Mm-hmm.
well, there's a lot of people who can do it, you know. Let's say I'm, someone from a less off country
Mm-hmm.
who wants to make money, then dropshipping may be great. But if my English skills aren't there to a degree where, I get to actually write these product descriptions, you're already like lagging behind just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I do still think it's a good avenue for it.
That is true. That is true. That is true.
So yeah, well, it's completely true what you're saying that supplier descriptions are safe to say usually relatively bad.
Yeah.
Um, that's where your own sales things have to come in. So it's up to you to write the headers for the descriptions, get a good description which sounds good, and that's exactly
Mm-hmm.
what I mean by read it yourself, make someone read it, and experience what it's like to shop in the store.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I think this has been everything we've wanted to say up till now. Unless you have anything else.
I'm thinking about no. Nope. No.
No,
I'll be
brilliant.
done.
Well, thank you very much for watching, everybody. This has been the third episode of the
Thank you very
Monday Money
much.
podcast. If you want to watch the second episode, you can do so on YouTube or Spotify. And if you do like watching our first episode, well, it's here on Spotify right with you. Please, thank you, everyone. And now we're going to Aaron for the credits.
So, guys, you can follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and you can join the Discord server. And as always, everything will be linked down below. Thank you very much for listening in.